Our ancestors worked hard, and there wasn't much to spare. So if they wanted new clothes, they made them. It was just that simple. And their handwork often became heirlooms, handed down from generation to generation. Maybe life is easier today, and maybe we are in a bigger hurry. But we can still take time to create heirlooms, and that is time worth spending.
Heirlooms by Design with Sharon LoMonaco is sponsored by Capital Imports, your passport for fine lace, embroideries, and fabrics, by OmniGrid, the most accurate and versatile products for the quilter, artist, and craftsperson, and by Quilts Plus, your authorized Bernina dealer. Now, here's Sharon.
Hi, I'm Sharon LoMonaco. Thanks for joining me on Heirlooms by Design. Today we will explore a technique that is just lots of fun, free motion machine embroidery. It's also called thread painting. In free motion machine embroidery, our sewing machine needle is like a painter's paintbrush. We just change our needle thread to change our paint colors. We will be sewing with our feed dogs lowered and with a machine embroidery foot on the sewing machine. This will allow you to move in any direction that you want to. Once you master free motion machine embroidery, many exciting new sewing techniques open up to you. Let's look at some of the possibilities with free motion machine embroidery. There are several different kits available to get you started with free motion, and these are just a few. This is a beginning kit right here, as well as the one above. And on the jacket that I'm wearing, this is going to be a new beginning free motion machine embroidery kit. And we have our tomato on the front pockets and our thread spools. And then on the back is our sewing machine and scissors and buttons and all of the things that a sewer needs. Now let's go to the machine and get started with free motion machine embroidery. First of all, let's take a look at the supplies that we'll need for free motion machine embroidery. The main thing is our hoop. You remember our machine embroidery hoop that has the inside wrapped. Today we're also going to be using some nylon organdy. Now this is a little stiffer than the organdy that you might find in the fabric store. This is designed for machine embroidery. We'll also be using a stiff tearaway stabilizer. The thread that we're going to be using in our needle, we'll be using sulky rayon machine embroidery thread. The rayon machine embroidery thread is a lighter weight than regular sewing thread, and the rayon gives a really beautiful sheen to all of our work. In the bobbin, we're going to be using a thread that's called a basting thread. This particular brand is by Mettler, and this is a very fine thread. We just need to use white in the bobbin, and that way we don't need to continually change our bobbin thread when we want to change colors. We just change our needle thread and we leave the white Mettler in the bobbin. Now this is extra fine, so you can get a lot of thread in the bobbin, and you don't have to worry about your machine running out of bobbin thread as quickly as it would if you were using just regular sewing thread. Also, you need a design, and we're going to be working on the design from my jacket today, but I wanted to show you some other kits that are available. This one is by Speed Stitch, and this is a wonderful beginning kit. It also has little bobbins of thread in it so that you can try out machine embroidery without having to invest in a lot of thread. This one is by Sew Art. This is Machine Embroidery Goes Country. And there are 3 projects in here. One is a picture, one is a pillow, and one is a cat. And this teaches you basically all of the different machine embroidery techniques. Also, we have some wonderful monogramming kits. Monogramming is really a lot of fun, and it's also a free motion machine embroidery technique. There's a lot of things that you can do, a lot of different techniques you can use once you start doing free motion machine embroidery. So when we come back, we'll get right to our machine setup and start sewing.
Sharon will be back right after this.
first thing we need to do for free motion machine embroidery is set up our sewing machine. We're going to lower our feed dogs by turning our knob on the side. And I'm going to be using an open toe free motion machine embroidery foot. Now in my bobbin I have put the Mettler thread and I have threaded the bobbin finger of the bobbin, and this is going to give us a little bit of extra tension on our bobbin. For those of you that don't have a Bernina, you may need to make a slight tension adjustment on your bobbin where there's a little tension screw. You might want to tighten it a little bit because of the extra fine thread, and you may also need to loosen your needle tension somewhat. Now just bring up our bobbin thread. I'm going to begin. We have hooped a piece of fabric, and the first thing that's important to understand is the widths of your zigzag stitch. We're going to be using a zigzag stitch a lot on this particular technique, and I'm going to sew on this muslin first with a 1 millimeter width, and then back up with a 2, and then down with a 3, up with a 4, and down with a 5. Now I have hooped my fabric and it's nice and tight. No wrinkles and no looseness, and I'm going to put a piece of tearaway on the back. The first thing I'm going to do is bring up my bobbin thread. I always bring up my bobbin thread for free motion embroidery. And with just a series of straight stitches, I'm going to just tie that off. I'm going to be using my needle down position and go to a zigzag stitch with a 1 width. And I'm just going to go straight down. Now remember, I'm in control of where this hoop is going. When I get down to the bottom, I'm going to slide over to the next line, and I'm going to change the width to a 2. And just come back up. With free motion machine embroidery, you'll be running your machine quite fast. Because of the speed that we're using, before I started, I gave my machine a new needle, size 80, and I also oiled it. When you get up to the top, just slide across and go to a 3 width. Now I'm going to change this to a 4 and come back. Go to a 5. Now when I get to the end, I'm going to switch to a straight stitch and stitch in place to tie off my stitch. Now this really shows you clearly the different widths that you can achieve with your zigzag stitch. And in different areas that we're going to be sewing, we'll be using a different stitch width. Now I'm going to put another piece of fabric in my hoop, and when we come back, I'm going to show you how to do some simple monogramming.
Heirlooms by Design will be right back.
Now we're ready to do some monogramming. I have put my fabric in the hoop and I've drawn my design. I want you to also notice that I have drawn 2 lines across with my fade out pen. These are our horizon lines. I want to keep these lines straight in front of me at all times, and that way our monogram is going to have some thicker and thinner areas to give it a little bit more interest. Now I'm going to put my stabilizer behind and put it under the foot. Again, with a straight stitch, I'm going to first bring up my bobbin thread and I'm going to secure this stitch. Also, I'm going to just snip this extra thread off because this tends to annoy me and gets me a little disconcerted. I like to have this horizon line go straight across. And this is the way that I'm going to keep this throughout the whole monogram. And I'm going to begin with a stitch width of 3.5. Whenever you need to reposition your hands, just stop with your needle down. Now we've come to the end of the monogram, but there's some areas that I'm not real happy with. So we can just widen our stitch width a little bit and go back over it. I won't go over it as heavy the second time as I did the first. I'm going to switch to a straight stitch and tie this off, and then we'll continue with our L. Now I finished the monogram, and you know this is a really quick and easy way to make a housewarming gift or something you can just put it right onto a purchased towel. I want to show you the back of our machine embroidery. You notice we have our tearaway here, but I want you to look at the tension on the back. You can just see the top thread peeking around to the back. That's the correct tension. You want to see a little bit of your top thread on the back. And now we're going to just tear away our tearaway. And you would tear this away before you laundered your towel or whatever it was that you're putting your monogram on. Now we're ready to go to our tomato that's on my jacket. I have already hooped my organdy. This is a little different than working with the muslin. And this is going to be an invisible thread applique. I'm going to place it onto my stabilizer. In determining which way we're going to sew, I'm going to draw some lines on here. A friend of mine who is a master at machine embroidery and machine arts, Theda Happ, has a great saying. She says, to sew the way it goes or grows. So with our tomato, we want our stitches to follow these lines that I've just drawn in here. I'm going to begin at the top, go to a zigzag of about a 3 millimeter width, and I like to outline the area that I'm going to be stitching. This reminds me of when I used to color in coloring books, and I always outlined my shapes first. I could not color those shapes unless they were outlined. And just keep turning your hoop so that the direction of the zigzag is going the way the tomato grows. Now we're going to fill in the area, and we want to be sure to stitch into the outline that we've just made. When we're finished, we don't want to see any distinct outline. We want it all to be hidden, and these stitches don't need to be even. We want to have them somewhat feathered out so that there's no definite lines where they overlap. And the faster you run your machine, the nicer your stitches will look. You're just going to continue in this manner until the entire shape is filled in.
Sharon will be right back with more Heirlooms by Design.
When you finish your first section, just continue to outline the next one, and then fill it in. And if your outline is not real even or real smooth, it really doesn't matter, because neither is the vegetable that you're sewing. Remember to stitch all the way into your outline. I've finished the tomato pincushion and we're ready to put it onto a garment. I've taken the tearaway off of the back, and now I'm just going to cut out our applique. And you want to stitch close to the stitching, but try not to cut your stitching. We're just going to continue to cut this out. And when you get to the bottom where our pearl cotton is hanging, don't clip that. Pull this out of the way, because I'll put that underneath. I'll wrap it around to the back when I get ready to put this onto a garment. When I put this on the garment, I'm going to use the same color of thread that I used to sew it originally. And I'll put it down just like this, and I will stitch in the same direction just around the edges, and it will blend right into the rest of the applique, and we won't even be able to see it. It'll look like it was sewn right on the garment. Now this little thread that's holding our strawberry was done the same way that the veins in the tomato were done, just with our pearl cotton stitched over the top with some either invisible nylon or the same color of green. That's the basics for free motion machine embroidery. A lot of zigzag stitching. Keep your machine cleaned, oiled with a new needle, and you should have lots of fun for many, many projects. Well, I've shown you what you can do with machine embroidery and invisible applique. I'd also like you to take a look at what you can do with machine embroidery in quilting. This little wall hanging was done using the walking foot as well as free motion techniques. All of the feather quilting was done using free motion. We don't use a hoop when we do that. We use our hands to stabilize the fabric. But it's the same principle of moving your fabric wherever you need it to go rather than just forward or backwards. Well, I had a lot of fun with today's technique, and I know you will too, just as soon as you give it a try. We have all of your machine embroidery supplies at Quilts Plus to get you started in free motion machine embroidery. I really enjoyed visiting with you today. I hope you will continue to tune in to Heirlooms by Design. In the coming weeks, we have many exciting techniques to show you. They will range from quilting, French machine sewing, and English smocking, to machine embroidery and lace making techniques. And all of them will be Heirlooms by Design.
To Quilts Plus, 1211 Noble Street, Anniston, Alabama 36201. That's Quilts Plus, 1211 Noble Street, Anniston, Alabama 36201. Sharon will be back with more Heirlooms by Design next week.